Yeah, just to clarify, John, you mentioned they might add time in, or are we good with the time?
I think we're still calculating the time.
Okay.
We're going to add 1 minute each to each candidate's time, and so we'll start now.
All right, very good. Mr. Foley, correct?
Yes.
We are in New London, a financially struggling city with a substantial percentage of public housing. In your urban agenda plan, you state your intent to, quote, promote an active and vibrant private housing market by ensuring the public housing market doesn't destroy the private housing market in cities. So I was wondering if you could explain, your concern of how the public housing market can damage the private housing market, and what would you do to address that?
Yeah. Just very quickly, if government money is coming in building excess capacity in housing, it destroys the pricing of the private housing in the neighborhood, and that's bad for neighborhoods. So that investors don't want to come in and invest, homeowners get hurt. So I think that's bad for the housing stock in cities like New London. I think it's also been found that when you concentrate subsidized housing in a project, that's not good for the residents in the project or good for the city. So I think that today most public housing is more dispersed in communities. It's better for everyone, and if it's done thoughtfully and carefully, it doesn't have to hurt the private housing market and hurt people who own their homes privately.
Joe Visconti?
The public housing has been a problem for decades in Connecticut. We can't look at public housing without realizing that there's no jobs. I have a plan for the inner cities, and especially for the Black and Hispanic men, young men that are in prison. And this is what major problem we're having right now in the cities that has been ongoing. Men and women at home that have kids in prison, this is racial. We need to get these young men, 19 to 25 years old, on the streets, that end up in prison, and get them trained with a GED, with the trades. For decades in the business, 40 years in the trades I've worked. I have hired men from Manpower, from Labor Ready, men I went to school with that were illiterate and never got a trade. So the public housing is one point, but the problem is they don't have jobs to get out of the public housing. We don't want public housing. We want to eliminate it and have people move up into the middle class.
Governor?
I respect you, but I have to point something out. There are more Caucasians in prison in Connecticut than there are blacks or Hispanics, and we really shouldn't be trying to divide ourselves. We should understand that there are issues that we have to deal with collectively. Housing is one of those. So I think I understood the answer that Mr. Foley gave. We have to keep people living in substandard housing in order to keep prices high. I reject that. I reject it. That's why we created a housing department. That's why we're investing money to turn housing projects that currently exist around, including inserting market rate units into places that we've rebuilt. That's what we're doing in Hartford. It's what we're doing in New Haven. It's what we are attempting to do here in New London and elsewhere around the state. Of course we want the right mix, but the idea that somebody would have to live in a substandard house to support somebody else getting more rent for their apartment is not a good equation for Connecticut, particularly if you understand the link between education and housing.
Tom Foley, do you have a quick response?
I just want to say I agree with Joe, and that is that ultimately in our cities the problem is that there aren't enough jobs. And Governor Malloy has not, with all his corporate welfare, brought any significant jobs to our cities. As governor, I've talked to people in these communities. I've talked to them about local content in government contracting and making sure when you spend government money that you're creating jobs in the community. When Governor Malloy did the busway to nowhere, he gave the contract to an out-of-state contractor, and a lot of those people that are paid for with a lot of Connecticut taxpayers' money are from out of state. I've got nothing wrong with Massachusetts, but I don't know why this governor is using taxpayer money to provide jobs in Massachusetts. We need jobs here in Connecticut, and these urban communities need more jobs. They'll get them with Tom Foley as governor.
Governor, you have 10 seconds to say something.
88% of the people who worked on the busway live in Connecticut.
Joe Visconti, would you like to clarify your earlier answer?
The bus, forget the busway. Racially disproportionate for inner cities for public housing. This was my point. And again, it's not about prisoners in all. They have to get GEDs, they have to get a trade, they have to come out of prison. Many mothers are sitting home waiting for their kids to come home, and it's a cycle, a revolving door in the prison system. 8.9% of our budget is the prison system.
We have quickly 30 seconds on your time, Joe Visconti. What would you do about that?
What I do with it,
Yeah.
that's a great thing. We want a work program, and there are already programs right now in state government. We want a program where 19 to 25-year-olds are brought into a different prison system, not mixed with the general population, where they have a chance to be reformed and have a life after 25. It's a different game for them. We have a chance for them to get the GED that they failed to get in high school, to get a trade, to be brought out to areas like we did when we had commercial projects, or even the Busway to Nowhere project where these people can actually go get a job and go to work.